we were talking about how Connor Bedard will likely get traded from Regina to whoever is contending, probably Seattle. Let's be honest here. I think they're first
There's
place
like
right now.
Seattle. There's and is Kamloops the host, Dave?
They
They
are.
are. Yep.
Okay, okay. There's like
And
So if
Seattle,
Kamloops,
Kamloops,
yeah, if
Portland.
Kamloops wants to make a splash, dude, if they really want to cement this tournament, they might have to make a splash for the big boy. Trade
I
away a
don't.
lot of those future 13-year-old kids right now.
Yeah, the little kiddos in grade three still in primary school. I don't even know if they can if they wanted to. Like I don't know how far in the future you can trade these picks, but they
Yeah.
just traded like a boatload for Zellweger, who was also
Yeah,
on the
that's
Yep.
junior
right.
team.
That's right. So
So
they traded for
they're
him, so
probably
it has kind of taken them out of contention, which is
yeah.
fair enough. They got some good players on that team.
I gotta say, like on the Bedard thing, like the Regina thing. So I know I was saying that I heard that he's probably not gonna get traded. Um, Jeff Merrick on his show today was also saying that like it might be like on his front that he doesn't want to get traded. Like Bedard is loyal to the Pats. Like he feels like he kind of owes it to them. Dude, is there anything this guy can do wrong? Like NHL teams are just like he's loyal. What? Get him now. Like Columbus is
Dude,
running to the podium. Obviously, anyone's running to the podium, but you know what I'm saying.
yeah. His celebratory I know we kind of missed this with our
Yeah.
oh,
World
amazing.
Cup. Dude,
I don't want to talk
it was
about
just
me.
yeah. Dude, it's crazy. This guy put up a record-setting number of points. He's like, "Yeah, it's not about me right now. I just want to thank the team. Like this team's been unbelievable. I love the guys." It's like that's crazy. Like I don't know if I'm put
GMs
in
are
that
just like
position. Oh, dude, salivating. Absolutely salivating.
salivating.
The thing with junior kids that set them apart from it really differentiates himself is if they're closer to being adults than them being like kids basically. So
Just their maturity level, right?
if you could cook yourself a plate of pasta at 17, your draft stock just went up from a potential late first round pick to a mid-tier first round pick right there, just by being able to cook for yourself. So showing that type of maturity, and it's, you know what, it is understandable because it's like I'd rather have some kid who's already got the leadership character, because that everybody wants a leader. You can never have too many leaders on one team. The more leaders, the merrier, basically, right? But if you have somebody who can carry themselves in a mature way, like of course people are gonna they're gonna
He's been
want you.
very
You could have
humble. Bedard was humble in
100%.
every interview. Like even like during the tournament, like an interviewer would be like, "You've got 5 points last game. What do you got to do to match that?" Like, and he'll like you can see like he puts on a little bit of a show where he just acts kind of dazed. He's like, yeah, we just got a Bucks and D. Like he just gives you the standard answer because he's aware. Like the guy knows how good he is. He's not oblivious, but just to show that maturity that Dave's talking about, like my God, man,
I will.
I can't just wait for this guy.
I will also say this: leading the scoring stat is a quantifiable value, correct? But being a leader in the locker room on the ice is something that you can. It's
You're
harder
talking
to
about
put value.
intangibles, Brian. You're talking
Exactly.
Yeah,
about
the qualitative
intangibles.
stat there.
You're
It's
speaking NHL hockey men talk, and they're all about intangibles.
and you know what? Like I can already see it. Vancouver, whoever it is, San Jose, down 1-0,
Chicago.
going to the third period, and Connor Bedard like speaks to the team. Listen, guys, we got this. We can do it. And he's the one that scores, right? Or he makes the pass to get the goal to the struggling winger, or the struggling D man, or whatever. Or the guy that turned over the puck last. They go into OT and they win the game. You can already see it. I don't need to.
What's his money where his mouth is?
Pardon me.
He puts his money where his mouth is. Like
Yes.
he says stuff, but he backs it up.
Yes.
100%.
And you know what? If he doesn't want to leave Regina, that would make for an interesting World Cup, because the reason we got into this conversation to begin with is I was telling Dave, like, I read this article a couple years ago where it's like the World Cup is harder to win than the AHL Cup, in the sense that you have to win your own league, and then you have to compete in a mini tournament, and that in itself is hard. You only have a couple years to actually do it because of the age restrictions. And Dave hits me with the World Cup is rigged. or not rigged, but rigged for the coast. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll
So
let you say your take.
I'll just jump in right there. So okay, so that's our hot take. The Memorial Cup is rigged for the host. I mean, I get it. If you're gonna put up like you have to put up money, like you have to bid for the
Hosting,
to
right?
host the tournament. I guess you could like let them cut a little bit of corners here and there, but. So the way that the Memorial Cup works is the host city automatic. So it's honestly it's like a FIFA tournament, right? Like the host city, host country, whatever you wanted to call it.
It's a
They
very
have
cool
automatic.
format.
Yeah, so they have automatic qualification. But what differentiates the Memorial Cup from FIFA is that there's like 32 teams in the FIFA tournament. In the Memorial Cup, there's 4. So odds are you have a 25% chance, and by not even showing up. Like you could literally like go, not even show up, 25 right there. Um. So I was thinking about it. I was like, if they automatically qualify, you still have to play 4 rounds of playoffs. Like if you are the WHL, OHL, QMJHL champion, you have to play 4 rounds of playoffs. That could be upwards of 28 games.
7-game series. Yeah.
7, 7, 7, 7. It's normally not going to be like that, but for the most part, you're playing at least 20 games.
Ballpark it at like 20. Yeah, exactly.
100%. So that's 20 more games than the potential host could be playing. So we saw it last year. If you weren't aware, in the Memorial Cup, the St. John Seahawks. So that would have been St. John out of Newfoundland, not St. John's Halifax.
Yeah.
Weird. Get into that a different time. They took down the Hamilton Bulldogs, who I had the pleasure of watching live win the OHL Cup final in Hamilton. Awesome experience. Love me some Arbor Jekaj just from that OHL Game 7. And here's where my voice is starting to go. So they took down Hammy in the final 6-3, and it just like made me wonder because Hammy had to go through the OHL. I think they played 2 game 7s for sure. They might have played a third as well. So they had a lot of games played. St. John, so the Seahawks were eliminated in the second round of the playoffs. I think they played a grand total of 8 games in the QMJHL playoffs. So that would have been like a 12 to 14 game difference right there. So I did a little bit of digging and I found since 1983, 11 host teams have won the Memorial Cup. So 1983 is the format that we see today. That was when it was first introduced. They had different formats before that. I won't even get into it.
This is
So
40 years worth of data right here.
40 years worth of data, 11 teams, 11 host cities won the Memorial Cup. So that's like, quick math there. That's probably about like what, 20%?
20 to a little bit under 20, a little bit more than 25. So one more than you'd expect. Because if you were just saying like even amount, well, actually, yeah, let's say it's like 27.5%. I think.
Yeah. So
this is not a math podcast. I failed calculus, everyone.
Yeah. Listen, that's why we're commenting. That's why we're commenting on CHL teams, and we're not commenting on like anything else to do with math. To do like with math. And then of those 11 teams, 8 of them didn't win their So
that's
league.
the real kicker right there. That's what
Exactly.
is because 11 host teams is like, okay, what's the big deal? 8 of 11 not having won the league, that's what makes your point 100%.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
that's incredible.
Yeah, and then just in recent times alone, like so Shawinigan in 2012, the Spitfires in 2017, and last year was St. John. That I would say like 2012 we could consider like our modern era. So like that's about 10 years worth of data right there. If 3 of those teams hosted and then also won the championship, it just like I know it's not as obvious, and I know we said it's like a bit rigged. It's not, but it kind of does make you wonder. There obviously has to be some sort of advantage that hosting the Memorial Cup has. And it's just like, if you're a betting favorite here, which I don't know if anybody on this podcast wants to place a little bit of money, maybe you want to put it down on Kamloops because it looks like they might have if everybody has a 25% chance of winning, I think it might slant towards Kamloops basically. Maybe they have a 30% chance,
And they're putting
35.
together a good team too,
I
so that's part of it. So
They
here's
are
the
a very
question
good
now,
team as well.
right? Like they made a huge trade for Zellweger. We just talked about it's technically better to not win your league. Like it's very counterintuitive to be like, okay, we're the host. Should we make the big trade? Oh damn it! What if we go 4 rounds deep? That worsens our chances of winning the Memorial Cup. Versus being the St. John Sea Dogs, you only go 2 rounds. You're objectively not as good a team as the 3 champions of the leagues, and yet that gives you an advantage. I don't. I just thought this is very off the top of our heads. Like we didn't discuss this before. Like, is there a solution here? Like, I don't think there is. Right? Like, this has been a
So
format for 40 years. What do you do?
maybe it's what you have to maybe it's what do you prioritize more? You prioritize winning your league championship or do you
Yeah.
prioritize winning the Memorial Cup championship? And I'll make a quick little parallel that I know Brian I don't know if he was thinking about it, but in football they have the leagues. You win your domestic your domestic league, and then if you are in the top 5 divisions, especially top 5 leagues, so top 5 countries, you get automatically qualified for the Champions League the next year, which is the best of the best, which is relatively similar to what the Memorial Cup is trying to do. Maybe the solution, instead of I don't get why it's only the four. I mean, I get it because it's the cup of the best of the best. Um, Maybe they could look at expanding it in the future. To make it add in maybe the winners and the runner ups. I
Yeah.
don't know how they would do it. Maybe that's how you get away with something like that. It doesn't look like it has been a problem, but it's just something to note. It could
Yeah.
potentially be exploited in the future.
So I did think about that, and I realized, while you explained it, 2 reasons why it wouldn't work. I did my law school applications early this year, and I did an interview with the dean of Windsor Law, and I spoke to her about it. And for those of you applying for anything, throw the bone out there. But I threw out the idea. Like I said, I'm a big hockey fan. I do a hockey podcast. I have a site, this and that. And I just asked her about the Spits, like the Spitfires, right? And she was like, "Oh yeah, with the city of Windsor, we love them, this and that." And I feel like you get a sense of heritage and passion by hosting the World Cup. You can see your CHL team play, and by doing it the soccer way, you lose out on that. Another thing about the soccer way is that you lose this when Istanbul, Cardiff, these cities when they host, they don't get automatic entry into the tournament because let's say Lisbon hosts, right? There's so many teams in Lisbon that are competing, or let's say London hosts. There's so many teams in London already, which one may get the automatic qualification. So it's more of an earn it situation. In regards to a fix, why don't we just rent out NHL arenas? We do 1 year in Vancouver, 1 year in Ottawa,
Maybe.
1 year in Toronto, 1 year in, I don't know,
So
pick another
so
team.
here's the thing for that. The reason why they have that host city is because they need that we only
It's
have
a big revenue driver.
Yep.
we only have the three leagues, right? So because you have the odd number of teams, you have to add in that
Yeah.
fourth, I believe. But I mean, that's also not to say you could definitely think of another way to do it. That's a great idea. To rent out. Realistically, it literally only lasts a week, a
Yes.
week and a half at max, right? So it's if I'm not mistaken, it's prime playoff time. You might have to, I don't know, maybe if a team who's not looking to get into the playoffs that next year, maybe they're the ones that get selected to host. I don't know, maybe a little bit of extra revenue
And
for them.
another thing too, the CHL's speaking to the lady at Windsor. You can tell that the CHL is built on the back of the local fans, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you know what? When you don't have a host that is local, you kind of miss out on that, the little bit of extra passion, a little bit of extra fire. So maybe they are doing it right in the sense that they're keeping it traditional, they're keeping it typical hockey, right? Not really testing stuff, but we got to see. It's definitely an interesting topic.